The Eye of the World, Chapter 1, An Empty Road. The wheel of time turns and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. A wind rose in the mountains of mist. The wind was not the beginning, but it was a beginning. It blew east across the sandhills, that in ages past had once been a great ocean, and through the westward of the Two Rivers region, beating at two men walking down a road. Randall Thor, a tall lad with a shock of red hair and grey eyes, walked along the quarry road from his farm in the westward, with his father Tamar Thor leading their horse Bella. His colouring came from his outlander mother Carrie, according to his father. She'd died when Rand was young and he could barely remember her. The shaggy brown mare pulled a cart full of brandy and apple cider to deliver to the Wine Spring Inn in their local village of Emmonsfield. It was meant to be full spring by now, but winter was holding on this year, showing no signs of abating. Bears and wolves were being driven down from the mountains of mist through starvation. Rand tried to keep his cloak around him to ward off the icy chill, whilst keeping an arrow nocked and ready. These woods had once been safe for children to play in, but no more. Feeling a sense of being watched, Rand turns to look behind. He can see a figure fully cloaked and dressed in black, face hidden in their cowl, sitting atop an equally black steed. The figure watched the boy, and Rand notices that the cloak is not disturbed by the stiff breeze. He can feel waves of hatred and animosity from the rider, a sensation Rand had never experienced in his life. Terrified, he turns to warn his father, whilst walking backwards, and stumbles on a rock and falls. Calling out to Tam, he looks back, and the rider and horse are both gone. Tam offers to check if the horse left any tracks to prove its existence, but Rand insists the weather must be playing tricks on him. Tam urges Rand to seek the flame and the void, a concentration trick that helps him focus the mind. It helped his father win many a festival competition in archery and the such like. As they walk on, Rand ponders if he really saw someone, and if so, who and what they wanted. As they carried on, Rand continually peered into the waterwoods, its ponds and streams where he and his friends Matrim Corthin and Perrin Abara had learnt to swim, explored the sandhills and to the foot of the mountains of mist. There were so many places between Devon Ride and Watch Hill that the rider could disappear into, and Rand was on constant edge, only breathing easier when he saw the village in the distance. Upon entering the village, Tam is approached by Wit Conga, who complains about the village wisdom, Nynaeve Elmira, particularly about her young age for the position. Tam tells Wit that the wisdom is women's circle business, at which point Wit's wife, Daze, overhears and berates her husband for interfering, with threats of kicking him out if he persists. Throughout the village, people call out to them, but they decline invitations for food and drink, mostly to avoid the good wives trying to matchmake Tam with a relative. They could not understand why he stayed a widower for so long. It was good that he'd loved his wife so much. It boded well for the next woman, they'd say. Some women had even begun to ask Rand to remind him how old he was now. That made him skittish. Preparations for the Beltime celebrations were well underway. Wives spring cleaning and husbands checking the thatch on their roofs. The spring pole was being erected in the village green, where unmarried eligible girls would dance around it, while the unmarried men would watch. It made Rand think of his childhood friend Gwen Arvia. She had been behaving differently of late, and it made him nervous. He didn't know if he wanted to see her or not today. On reaching the inn, they are greeted by its stout innkeeper and Emmonsfield's mayor, Brandlewyn Alvia, Egwene's father. Bran had been worried that Tam would not arrive with their cargo before winter night, and Tam tells him that he gave his word, but his dislike of leaving the farm in these current conditions had made him delay to the last moment. Tam instructs Rand to unload the cart while he catches up with Bran as a member of the village council. They are joined by the Thatcher and fellow council member Sen Buie, who complains bitterly about the weather, the wolves, and the wisdom refusing to foretell when the winter will end. She only stomps away when anyone asks. Rand's friend Matrim Corthin, a dark-haired mischievous boy, catches his attention and draws Rand away from the men. He regales Rand with a story about catching a badger with Dav, and they plan to let it loose on the green tomorrow to scare all the girls. Rand smiles as his friend never seems to grow up, but he must unload the barrels. Matt interrupts with news of strangers in the village, and Rand freezes. He asks Matt if he wears all black with a cloak that doesn't move and rides a black horse. Matt swallows, saying no, but he knows who Rand means. He's seen him too, though no one will believe him. The rider frightens him. It was 3 days ago, and he's still jumping at shadows. He even wondered if it was the Dark One, though he laughed nervously while saying that. Rand recites the law that the Dark One and all the Forsaken are bound in Shayol Ghul by the Creator. Besides, if he was free, why would he be plaguing farm boys in the 2 rivers? Matt insists he felt the rider was evil, then jokes he could be the dragon. Rand tells him he's a fool, and worse than Sen Bui. Rand says his father thinks he was jumping at shadows, and Matt says the same about his Da. He has some of the other boys out watching for him, though Dad thinks he's a sheep stealer from Taran Ferry. Matt wonders if with 2 witnesses will they be believed now, but Rand doubts it with Matt's reputation for pranks. They'd more than likely be sent to the Wisdom to see if they were sick. Tam spots Matt with Rand and thanks him for offering to help with the barrels. Matt tries to beg off, but Tam tells them that the quicker they're done, the quicker they can meet the Gleeman. Bran tells them that he arrived in the middle of the night, banging the door down. If he wasn't a Gleeman, he'd have seen him off. Sen mutters about it being a waste of money, just like the fireworks for bell time, if the peddler ever gets here. Matt asks if the Gleeman's cloak is black, making Bran laugh, saying no, it's just like any other Gleeman's cloak, a patchwork of colours, and the boys chuckle in relief. The men head into the inn, and Matt agrees to help Rand unload the cart, saying Dav will keep the badger for now, and if Egwene shows up, he'll get to watch Rand act the fool.